Have you ever found yourself just sitting around, staring out the window? Your cell phone is in your hand, but you're not scrolling, you're not doing anything meaningful, and you just think to yourself, I'm bored. It's not a feeling that we relish, is it? In fact, we'll do almost anything to escape it. We'll tap, we'll swipe, we'll refresh, scroll, repeat, watch the next YouTube, watch the next series on Netflix, do anything to keep us from being idle. But here's the thing. Boredom isn't necessarily the enemy. Sometimes it's the invitation. Boredom is not the absence of things to do. It's the absence of why we want to do them. A hollow echo in the mind when all the usual answers fail us. We talk about boredom as if it were a glitch, an error code on the screen which our mind has tragically become in this modern age. But maybe boredom is the core operating system, the deep background where something meaningful can unfold. Close your eyes for just a moment, if you're able. Picture yourself in a room with no distractions. No phone, no TV, no inbox pinging. It's just you, your breath, a clock that hasn't worked in years. Guess what? That's not emptiness. That's a crucible. Neuroscience calls this the default mode network, the brain's resting state when you let your thoughts wander without a task in front of you. It's where memories swirl, where daydreams take shape, where your mind stitches together fragments of feeling. It's also where anxiety and self-doubt can surface if you're not ready to sit with them. So when boredom arrives, it's like a key turning in a lock. It opens the door to that dark room, the one that we rarely visit. We sprint away from this room because what lies there is raw. It leaves us unexposed. It leaves us feeling like we're not in control. It's not a good feeling. Unfiltered longing, half-forgotten hopes, the ache of questions we never asked. In ancient contemplative paths, they called this state acedia, a spiritual dryness, a desert of the soul. Monks described the temptation to flee into distraction, to chase anything that would dull the discomfort of being alone with one's thoughts. But here's a secret. The desert is not a place to fear. It's a womb. In that empty expanse, creativity gestates. The writer who stares at a blank page often doesn't realize that page is pregnant with possibility. Perhaps you've heard of the classical composer Franz Joseph Haydn. Haydn noticed his court audience, a regular audience of wealthy nobles, were getting rather bored with the repertoire that had become quite predictable. So, during a gentle, slow movement of his Symphony No. 94, he inserted a sudden, loud chord to startle them awake. This playful surprise transformed Symphony No. 4, the second movement, into a defining feature, earning it the nickname Surprise Symphony. What began as boredom became Haydn's creative spark, proving that unexpected disruption can turn tedium into musical genius. Boredom is that humming within. It's the unresolved chord before the full symphony emerges. Imagine your mind as a pond when the surface ripples with constant stimuli, notifications, chatter, gossip, endless scrolling on your cell phone. You can't see anything below you. But when that surface stills, suddenly the stones on the bottom appear. You see what's been there all along. Some stones are smooth and light, others are sharp, jagged reminders of old wounds. So boredom, in its true form, is a mirror. It shows the parts of ourselves we've been too busy to notice. Here's what happens if you let boredom sit with you unhurried. First, you feel the void, an echo of sadness, maybe a flicker of dread. Second, you feel curiosity prick at the edges. What if I could use this? Third, you begin to create. An idea takes shape, or a question rises that you didn't even know you had. And then, maybe, you start moving, writing a sentence, sketching a shape, humming a tune, sending an email to that relative that you haven't spoken to in years. Or perhaps it's something as simple as finally folding that laundry you washed a week ago and you've been grabbing from each day to get dressed. You think about that child with nothing to play with but a cardboard box. Sometimes they take the toy out, ignore the toy, and just play with the box. In that moment of boredom, the box becomes a spaceship or fortress, a pirate's treasure chest. Not because the child was given a lesson plan or some instructions on how to use with the toy, but because the child's mind is free to reshape reality. We adults forget that freedom. We trade it for a perception of safety. If I occupy every second with something, I won't feel lost, we subconsciously tell ourselves. But what we lose is the awareness that lostness often contains the map. In some spiritual traditions, silence and boredom are gateways. They call it the wilderness, not because it's hostile, but because it's untamed. There are no signposts, there's no predictions. You have to learn to navigate by the stars that you can't yet name. Think of the great breakthroughs throughout history. Newton watching an apple fall, bored in the garden, no formal experiment in sight. Coleridge gazing at a quiet lake, dreaming up the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Steve Jobs sitting quietly before a presentation, shaping his keynote in the stillness. Not an iPad in sight. These are not accidents. They're moments when boredom cracked open the door to discovery. And yes, sometimes boredom is a veil over darker things. Depression, loneliness, a sense of emptiness that can feel intolerable. But even that darkness, when faced, can become the ground from which compassion grows. When you see your own loneliness in the mirror of boredom, you might finally reach out to someone else in their own solitude. In existential philosophy, boredom is tied to the idea of the absurd, that tension between our search for meaning and a universe that doesn't hand it to us on a silver platter. We feel bored because we suspect there's a meaning deeper than what we've been given, and we're not sure how to find it. So here's the practice. When boredom knocks, pause before you run to your cell phone. Sit with it. Name the sensation. I feel unmoored. I feel restless. I feel afraid of what I'll find. Breathe into it. Let the questions come. What stirs beneath this emptiness? What am I avoiding telling myself? And then, trust that some place beneath those questions, an answer or a spark is waiting. It might be a creative idea. It might be a feeling that needs tending. It might be a new direction that you didn't see before. Boredom is the clearing in the forest. It's the desert that wears you down so you notice the oasis beneath the sand. It's the blank page that trembles with possibility. So the next time you feel bored, and I mean just really bored, resist the tap, resist the swipe, the scroll. Lean into the silence. See what stirs within, because on the other side of boredom lies something raw and ineffable, your own unspoken truth, waiting to be honored and heard.